People are not having kids anymore because the world has changed in such a way where everything costs money. And the gap between the rich and the poor is becoming wider and wider because of inflation and all these things. And having a kid feels like it is itself an expense. And also lifestyle. People's lifestyles have changed. And I think on a collective scale, people are becoming more conscious about what makes them happy, what makes them intrinsically fulfilled. And for a lot of people, having kids just ain't it. And I think a lot of people are just becoming more aware of just how tough it is to have kids. You know, you can romanticize having kids all day, but at the end of the day, there's a shadow side towards having kids. And I think especially my generation, the Gen Z generation, we're like very aware of the shadow side of having kids. You know, the kids suck, man. Kids, they smell, they do weird shit, they get themselves hurt, they try to do weird stuff that makes you worry if they're going to get themselves hurt or if they're going to kill themselves. Kids are expensive. You know, you have to pay for this and this and that. You know, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where they talk about how it's actually quite cheap to have kids. You can have kids on a low budget. But nah, fam, I ain't about that low budget situation. Because the thing is, it's not the child that's the issue. It's that we're part of a human race. You know, there's obstacles, there's challenges, and a lot of ways to overcome these challenges is to have resources, aka money. And if you're if you're doing this whole low budget thing, if you come across an obstacle that requires a lot of your resources, all of your money, and then suddenly now you're in this situation where like you gotta pay for rent, you gotta pay for this, and you're getting into debt, and at the same time you gotta feed little Timmy, little Stuart, and you're stressed out, you're working overtime, and you're burnt out. And there goes Stuart, busy running around in the house, trying to figure out how gravity works, not watching their step and falling all over the place, and finding that one important thing in the house that shouldn't be broken. Let's see how Dad's shirt interacts with mud or like red paint. Or let's break this vase just to see what is it like if this thing tips over and falls. And that just sets you off because like you're in the middle of this phone call that's like very important. You're stressed out, like you're not your head is spinning, and then there's little Timmy in the background that's just not making things any easier. And then you lash out at the kid because the kid is not having empathy for your situation. It's not thinking about you. You know, they're just thinking about how to get your attention, you know, and you feel that Timmy is being selfish. And at the same time, you can't expect a toddler to be thinking about your worldly problems. You know, they're too young to understand this kind of thing. But at the same time, your reaction, how you feel, is completely justified. That's how a lot of dysfunction happens in families. You know, that there's just a lot of problems, and you create these unreasonable expectations for like a toddler or someone who's young to be like emotionally resilient. And like you develop this resentment towards your kid. You know, I see this a lot in parents that I've seen, where it's like they love their kids, don't get me wrong, they love their children, but you can also sense resentment for their kids' existence at the same time. You can kind of feel that this person loves their kids, yes, but at the same time, there's a part of them that wishes that their kids never existed, and they kind of regret the decision of having kids. But they romanticize the struggle of having kids because that's all they've got, really. You know, if you take that away from them, if you destroy that romanticization that they have of the grind. They could possibly fall into a depression and discover the underlying misery that they feel. And a lot of us, young folks, were looking at that and we're like, no, thank you. We do not want that. I know for myself, I do want to have kids someday. I would like to be a father. Not anytime soon. I'm still a young man that's figuring out this life stuff and properly trying to stand on my 2 feet. And I would also like to stack up on some cash so that I never have to worry about money. And I think my generation is developing awareness that maybe they are not the kind of person that should have kids. They like the idea of it, but developed the self-awareness to recognize their limits and what they really want out of life. But anyways, is it good or bad that people are not having kids anymore? I think it's good and bad. I think it's both, but I think it's mostly good. Because when we look at our planet Earth, there are way too many humans on this planet. And I think, to be real, we need to slow down on having kids as a civilization in general. We have way too many people around. And we're destroying everything. Us human beings take. And we destroy everything in our path. And when you look at the infrastructure of how things are being built in cities, anywhere, they're just not really sophisticated. There's like a lack of integrity. It's a lot of things being produced today. It's more about quantity than it is about quality. You know, you see an apartment building and it just looks like crap. You know, because there's just a lot of people that they need to fit into one tiny space. We're destroying territory, habitat, places where other sentient beings, other animals are living in, and we're destroying those homes so that we can create a McDonald's, a supermarket, and an apartment building. And I honestly think it's good that people are not having kids these days, because we genuinely, as a civilization, need to cut it down. There's way too many people. But I think it's bad because from a religious perspective, you know, religious people say that modern culture, modern ways of living is destroying the nuclear family. And that is absolutely true. You know, the shadow side of this positive thing of people not having kids is that a lot of people are going to be lonely. You know, because what has given us human beings meaning and direction and just fulfillment? It was creating a family, having kids. And when you take that away, for a lot of people, you take away a big part of what brings them meaning. Because it's also a biological meaning. It's like built into your code as a human being to derive meaning and fulfillment from, you know, creating a family, having kids. You know, just biologically, that's your mission, is to procreate. You know, when you have kids, you create generations of people around you that can take care of you. You know, you're not only relying on your kids, but you're relying on your kids' kids. You know, you can be an uncle. You can have people around you to tell stories. So, my generation is already one of the loneliest generations that has ever been here. And I think for many people, it's going to be even lonelier, especially those who don't want to have kids. But to take away from this, here's what I would say. Who do you want to be? And really think about it deeply. And even if you don't have an answer for it, you know, if you're lost, try everything and see what sticks. If you're overwhelmed, drop everything and see what sticks. Who do you want to be? If it's the kind of person who just wants to play video games for the rest of your life, I'm not a fan of that kind of thing. But honestly, if that kind of thing that you want to do doesn't come from a place of insecurity that you can't get a girlfriend or you're struggling with this and this and that, and it's really just that you want to play video games and that's what gives your life meaning, then go for it, my dude. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, and don't let anybody in society convince you that having a kid will bring your life happiness. But if you're someone like me, your life isn't ideal right now, but you want to work your way towards it. You do want to have kids someday. Then do it. I think people should still have kids. I just think it should be done more consciously. I want to be a parent, but I want to do it properly. I don't want my kids to suffer. Other kids suffered. And I also think just the hustle of having kids should slow down. I don't believe in having a kid on a low budget. I think it's a really reckless and irresponsible decision to have a kid if you're broke. You need to have money. And I'm not talking about having money to be flashy and have fancy shit. Have money so that if things go south, you have a plan. You can take care of things. So with all that said, thank you for listening, and unto all are one.